Have you ever wondered what sparked the flame that ignited the American Civil War? It was not a single spark, but a series of events and issues that had been smoldering for years. The primary catalyst? The contentious issue of slavery, a deeply embedded institution in the Southern way of life, yet largely abhorred in the North. Economic differences also played a significant role. The North was industrializing rapidly, while the South remained an agrarian society reliant on slave labor. This economic divide created tension and a sense of mutual misunderstanding. Political power was another bone of contention. The South feared losing influence in Washington as the North's population and thus its political representation grew. These issues created a division, a chasm between North and South. The stage was set, the actors in place, and the script, though unwritten, was filled with conflict and strife. And thus the stage was set for one of the most devastating wars in American history. The tension between the North and South eventually reached a breaking point. A spark was all it took to ignite the powder keg, and that spark was the attack on Fort Sumter in April of 1861. The secessionist Confederate forces, eager to claim control, launched an assault, forcing the Union's hand. The North, underestimating the strength and resolve of the South, expected a swift victory. The South, on the other hand, was banking on the North's reluctance to engage in a protracted war. The early battles of the war, such as Bull Run and Antietam, shattered these illusions, revealing the harsh reality of a conflict that would not be easily resolved. Both sides had to quickly adapt their strategies, realizing that this was not a minor disagreement, but a full-blown war. The war had begun, and the country was about to be tested in ways it could never have imagined. Every war has a turning point, a moment that changes the course of the conflict. In the American Civil War, this turning point came in the summer of 1863 with two key battles, Gettysburg and Vicksburg. These victories for the Union marked a shift in the tide of the war, a shift that would ultimately lead to the end of the Southern Confederacy. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought over the first 3 days of July, was the war's bloodiest battle, with an estimated 51,000 casualties. The Union victory here stopped the Confederate General Robert E. Lee's second and most ambitious invasion of the North. It was a severe blow to the Confederacy, which lost a third of Lee's forces and never again managed to invade the North. Simultaneously, Union forces were laying siege to Vicksburg, a city located on the Mississippi River. The city was vital to the Confederacy, as it provided a lifeline for supplies. After 47 days of siege, the city fell on July 4th, giving the Union control over the Mississippi River and effectively splitting the Confederacy in two. In the midst of these victories, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. This decree declared that all enslaved persons in Confederate-held territory were to be set free. While it didn't immediately free all slaves, it changed the fundamental character of the war. The conflict was no longer just about preserving the Union, but also about ending slavery. This shift in the war's goals garnered wider support for the Union, both domestically and internationally. The combination of military victories and the Emancipation Proclamation created a turning point in the American Civil War. The Union's successes at Gettysburg and Vicksburg had severely weakened the Confederacy, both militarily and strategically, while the Emancipation Proclamation elevated the moral cause of the Union. With these pivotal victories, the Union gained momentum, and the tide of the war began to turn. The end of a war is often just as complex as its beginning. As the American Civil War reached its final years, the landscape of the conflict drastically changed. Union General William Tecumseh Sherman embarked on his infamous March to the Sea in the autumn of 1864. Leaving a trail of destruction from Atlanta to Savannah, Georgia, he aimed to break the Confederacy's will to fight. His strategy? Total war. Sherman's march devastated the South, crippling its infrastructure and economy. While Sherman was rampaging through Georgia, the Confederate General Robert E. Lee found himself in a dire situation. His army of Northern Virginia was dwindling in numbers and supplies as the Union's stranglehold tightened. On April 9, 1865, Lee made the difficult decision to surrender his army at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively signaling the end of the Confederacy. However, the end of the war did not bring immediate peace. Just 5 days after Lee's surrender, President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, sending shockwaves across a nation already reeling from years of bloody conflict. Lincoln, who had skillfully navigated the Union through the tumultuous waters of civil war, would not live to see the full fruits of his efforts toward reconciliation and reunification. The American Civil War was one of the deadliest conflicts in US history, with an estimated 620,000 lives lost. Beyond the human toll, the war wrought profound changes on the nation. It ended slavery, reshaped the political landscape, and forever altered the social fabric of the nation. In many ways, the end of the Civil War marked the beginning of a new chapter for the United States. The Reconstruction era that followed sought to rebuild and reunite a nation torn apart by internal strife, and address the deep-seated issues that had led to the conflict in the first place. The American Civil War, a conflict that tested the very fabric of a nation, had finally come to an end. But its legacy and the lessons it left behind continue to echo through the corridors of American history. But what happens after such a monumental conflict ends? The American Civil War, a brutal and divisive chapter in our history, left an indelible mark on the nation. Its conclusion in 1865 led to the Reconstruction era, a period of rebuilding and reform. The South was reintegrated into the Union, and amendments were passed to abolish slavery and grant equal rights to all citizens, regardless of race. Yet, this era was also fraught with tension and conflict. As the nation grappled with the ramifications of these changes, the war's legacy extended beyond the Reconstruction, shaping social norms, political ideologies, and economic structures that persist to this day. From the enduring racial disparities to the ongoing debates about states' rights and federal power, the Civil War's impacts are woven into the fabric of our society. The echoes of the Civil War still resonate today, a testament to its lasting impact on the American story.